Hi everyone. I'm very excited to be competing with the Super Bowl. I've achieved my zenith. I'm very excited to be competing with the Super Bowl. I've achieved my zenith. I'm very excited to be competing with the Super Bowl. All right. Let's thank you so much, folks. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you coming here on a Sunday afternoon. Welcome, welcome. It's Market Kickoff again. Can't believe another week is behind us. Today is Sunday, February the 8th. I've put up, if you scroll up to the top, I've put up a link that is the week in review. It tells you a little bit about how the indices behaved relative to one another and what we need to look at. What I want to show you is what happened. If Friday you were really surprised by how sharply prices moved, I want to show you how we can see that in the chart and really what we've got ahead of us this week, because it could be pretty messy. My expectation is that we have another trading week of a lot of wicks and a lot of chop. One, because we have not resolved anything. We still have all kinds of tariff duties sitting around. We still have, I think the Supreme Court has sort of kicked the can down the road into perhaps the middle of the year to say something about these tariffs. And so there are a lot of headwinds and a lot of tailwinds, and so it's a mixed bag. And there are people that are macro focused that are very much in the camp of we're going to fall right off a cliff. That being said, intraday traders and how we're hedging doesn't quite say that, and so they're fighting against each other. So let's see how that looks. So first of all, here's something to note. You got to put this on a list. If you have aggressive downside movement for 3 days in the ES, the fourth day usually has itself a bounce, especially if you can look to the left and you can see old resistance that became support, that was resistance and then support. Look to the left. So what's the story? What's the moral of this story? When in doubt, look to the left. So we had a reversal event between January the 20th and the 21st. We came in and we sort of grinding upward move to the top of the box. So I talk to us all the time about inventory accumulation, or how a market collects inventory to sell or to buy. So what does that mean? Well, we can't sell anything if we don't have it to buy, and we can't buy anything back if we don't have it to sell. So there's going to be a place where we hang out together. Some folks call this consolidation. Some folks call it congestion. Some folks like me call it inventory accumulation. So notice what happened last week. Last week we had 3 savage days that pulled down, broke the prior low, interim low. It broke this regions of low, and then, remember, when we break, zoom out so you can see what you're looking at. Now, I haven't had a chance to see what the futures are pricing in terms of a gap up or down, but my suspicion is that underneath this messy line, 69.75-ish, 69.77. As long as we stay under that line, we're probably going to have accumulation down here. So let me put my volume profile here. Okay, and let's change these settings. Yuck. Up vol, down vol, value area up, value area down. And we got our point of control. We'll leave it as red. That's fine. Okay, so here we have it. We're dancing right in the middle of it. When the market's open today, we've got a fight club. And listen, Friday's buying was everybody buying, not only retail, because people who are aggressively short, I saw some very big orders coming into the end of the day on Friday. And although retail is a big part of the market, they're not a big part of the futures market. They're a very small part of the futures market. They're a much bigger part of the stock market than they are the futures market. And the buying into the close was pretty steady. So everybody was looking to unwind their shorts. So here's something important, and you're going to see it across all of the charts. When you have a trend and it looks super savage, and it comes down and it tests an old support zone, breaks it and immediately recovers, your thought should be, I wonder if the shorts got in and stayed in too late. Just stayed in too long. So notice, if you listen to group coaching on Friday, Hoke said to me, hey, the poor low, the poor low or the poor high that we had just experienced was something that needed to be tested again. And if it was a poor, if it was a poor high, it was going to get broken. So here we are. This is Friday, and this is Friday's opening range, and just pure exhaustion. And this is, I believe, what he means by excess on the low, because there was still a fair bit of volume there that broke through those low edges, which really were here. That was the low, that 68.01. It savagely breaks through and then recovers. So the auction died in excess all the way down, and then people started buying it up. Now, one of the things that you really want to watch is, wait, how does price action behave when it starts buying up? And if you are sitting with that VWAP under you, folks, you've got to remember this. The VWAP is under you. Do not sell unless you are in some kind of scalp and you're going to the VWAP and you're cutting it out. Okay? So that's very, very important. Let that VWAP guide you in terms of directional motion. A lot of people were saying, hey, this just feels like it's going to fade. Well, it might feel like it, but it never told you it was going to do that at all. Never, not once. So my suspicion is above 69.73, we'll head towards 7,000. Below 69.73, our bounces are likely to give us some kind of mean reversion into the VWAP, which could be anywhere around that 68.90 formation. So if we're setting up a trade, which we've got 5 minutes before the open, and then I'll work through the NQ and oil and all the others. I'm very happy to hear that, Spencer. Is the futures market 95% institutions? I have no idea what the statistic is. I really don't. It's futures, so, anybody could trade them. And what do we know as institutions? I don't know. Yeah, you can trade metals, just micros due to huge swings of metals. It's all about risk. I have to pay more attention to overnight trend than strong coming in, and shouldn't have been trying to work Friday. Listen, every day we come in, we have this idea of the market's going to do something. But one of the things we don't do is say, hey, if I'm wrong, what should happen? So JGZ baby, I would say every morning make a habit of saying, wait a second, what did I do overnight? What does that tell me about trend? Where is my VWAP? And if I have to chase something out, where is my old support, new resistance? And you'll notice, this is absolutely fantastic, but these boxes do this all the time, no matter where you are, because it's all about inventory. So here is the region from, say, where does it break out? It breaks resistance, new support. It breaks out at 5:45 Eastern time. It absolutely explodes out of the open, but look at what happens on the pullback. Old resistance, new support. Why is this something that happens over and over again? A couple of reasons. Number one, inventory gets accumulated here. They all agree that we don't want to sell any lower than 68.45, and we don't want to buy any higher than 68.71 until somebody tries it. And what happens if you're thinking to yourself, they're not going to buy it past 68.71, so I'm going short. Well, what if it starts printing 68.72, 68.73? What are you going to do? You're going to be forced to cover because you do not want to experience that loss. So then what? Remember how I tell you that the market is made up of paranoid characters that always turn around and see if the door's locked behind them. This is the test of the locked door. Hey, I just broke out of here. If I pull all the way back and hold this edge, I'm taking a long right here, 68.71. Now, could you say, hey, trend is up, momentum is up. If it breaks out of this 68.71, I'm going long 68.72, and you use a buy stop. Absolutely, you can do that. How do you know where your target is? You clone the box of inventory. Oh, for heaven's sakes. You clone the box of inventory, and then you just lay it on top. And look what happens. It goes from 61 to 97, pulls back again, also gives you a long. This is a 14 simple moving average, and you just walk it up. That tells you, hey, this is a buy zone. Don't think, oh my gosh, this should roll over. Just say to yourself, wait, what am I seeing? What am I seeing? And let that drive you. So here we came into the day.
The market is open.
Here we go. Oh, the gap up is 69.62. So where's it going first? 69.74 is my guess. Could go to 69.66. Here is old resistance. Now, could I ultimately say, hey, I'm going to sell this?
Order filled.
I could. I don't know that it's the greatest trade, but I do know it's a topping formation. And if I decide I'm going to do that, I must keep my stop in check. I know this is the wick from Friday. So I'm here at the top of the wick. I'm thinking to myself, hey, maybe I'll fill the gap or maybe I'll come into prior resistance. The storyboard is the following though. If I break above this level, I should be able to go to that 69.75-ish. That's just the premise. Let's look at a 500 tick, see if we can figure this out this way. So now, if we're looking at a 500 tick, we're above the VWAP. What's the storyboard about the first candlestick? I don't talk about it that much, but this part is true. If I cannot lose the 50% range of a candlestick, I am not sitting in the right direction of the trade. Now, at this juncture, I do believe that I am sitting in the right direction, but I'll change it into a buy zone if it breaks above my 69, 67 and a quarter. Otherwise, I expect it to come back. It should stop and roll over into the next edge. And then the target will be up there at 69.74. Is this a very aggressive trading style? Yes. If we stare it down and we say, wait a second, what am I looking for? I'm either looking for a breakout or a gap fill. That's all I'm looking for. A breakout or a gap fill.
Order
it's going
filled.
to give us one or the other. So I turned it out in the other direction. And here it is. It's going to break if it breaks. If you are the type of person that has to have a ton of activity in your trading space, this reversal event that says, hey, I should break down, but because I'm not, I am sitting in a good spot that tells me I can move in the other direction. Why? My VWAP is supporting me. I have upward trend. I know I've got a target range that is around 69.70, and so I'm going to go for it. Could you be scared? Yeah, you could be scared, but, it's not like somebody's got you at gunpoint or, holding you to a knife somewhere or whatever. It's just a trade. A lot of us get really ramped up about fear, and you just can't be afraid. Now, you could go, whatever, lady, that's easy for you to say. And it really isn't. I'm telling you this because I know this fear. But many of you know that my husband is my business manager. I think it's kind of a tough thing to have a spouse as your business manager, but we have a great deal of respect for each other, and so it works pretty well. And something he said to me about 10 years ago, he said, why in the world are you so afraid of taking a trade? What's the worst that could happen? I said, well, I could lose. And his response was, okay, you could lose if you manage your risk, which I expect you to, because that's the deal that we made together. We expect to hold that risk event in place. Then what? Well, then I guess I could take another trade. So what are you so afraid of? Don't be afraid. don't be afraid. It's not like somebody's, it's not Rumpelstiltskin at the door going, give me your firstborn. It's not somebody saying, hey, you just had a bad trade. I think this is stalling out, but let's give it a go here. I'm going to move it right up here. I'm just going to walk it up. It's probably going to stop me out here. But this reversal trade, folks, it works really, really well because you are finding an area to get involved that says the following. If it doesn't work here, it should work in the other direction. Now, does it happen all the time that it works in the other direction?
Order
No,
filled.
it doesn't. But it's certainly something that you can do, and you can do it very well. Okay? So, what indicators are you using, and is that a standard VWAP or an anchored VWAP? My orders are being rejected for not enough margin. You're on a combine or an XFA? Don't you think you're too early on a trade? That's just it. I didn't think I was too early. I thought to myself, if it gaps up and there's weakness, it's going to fade right here. So I'm going in. And if it doesn't fade, it's going to expand. So I think the reason that you can't trade metals on the XFAs has to do with margin requirements, but I don't know. I don't know. So someone asks the really great question. What's good size normal stop loss in ES in terms of points? Listen, that changes from day to day. Here's the thing. We're looking at a 500 tick. Let's say you trade a 500 tick. And your thought is, if my moving average is up and I'm sitting above my VWAP, I'm going to buy any pullback. So here's my first 500 tick. My second one is a pullback. Draw Fibonacci at the end of that first 500 tick for small measurements. Is it holding the 50% right here? Yes? Okay, if it bounces off of your VWAP there, you could take a long. So what's your stop? Well, here, it's if you get in at 63 because you break the close of that first 500 tick. If you get in at 63, your stop is 56 if you're trying to look at something like that. So it's 9 points, but it's measured. So let's do another one. Let's say your first candlestick, let's say you're trading a 100 tick. And I have to tell you, in the pre-market, the 100 tick is not bad. It doesn't move like crazy. So you've got yourself some room. So here's your 100 tick. You draw it. And here you are. And so now you're watching it. Where's your VWAP? Sort of right on top of those. So it's bullish. There's your moving average. So what is your thought? Pullbacks or buy zones? Where do you want it to pull back to? Anywhere above the 50% range of that opening candlestick. If it holds there, you buy the top of your 100 tick. You could do it here, and that would be 63 to 54, still 9 points. Still 9. Notice this. See the topping formation right there at 69.74? Very nice area. How did we find that line in the sand? We were looking at a daily chart. So look at the daily chart. I do not trade live on TopstepX. I have my other personal trading accounts that I trade with, I often trade from combines. Once in a while, I'll put an XFA up there, but when I am focused and trading, I don't like to talk to anyone. I don't like to have any distractions whatsoever because I know how my brain works. All right? So that's that. You're long one MGC, plenty of other markets. How do we have an update on when SICH is available on TSX? I have no idea. Long from 61, holding for the 90s with a profit in place. Thanks, Anne Marie. That's fantastic. So place your stop based on the fib. Listen, you can use an ATR also, JG. You really can. You can. You can use anything you want. You just have to agree that what you choose, you hold to. A lot of us have these amazing strategies. We just don't follow them. And that's sort of the bad thing, right? We don't follow them. Look at all the volume on this 100 tick at the open. So this tells me that I should have a support zone now at 69.59. So if I'm looking for a long, I'm going to wait and let this 69.59 come to me. Maybe I get lucky and it comes to me and I put my stop at 53, right? So now my stop is 6 points wide or so, 5.5 points wide. All right, let's go to the NQ. Whoops. NQ. I can't believe nearly 7K close to break even. M's? I don't know what that means. So here's the thing. We gamble all the time. I mean, I have that same thought that runs away from me on occasion. We just have to remind ourselves that we're not here to trade anything but probabilities. So we have the same sort of formation here. We have a low that's likely to be setting in at about 25,177 if it loses that edge. We've got a problem. Look at what's happening here. You see how we're making lower highs and higher lows? We're going to have some sort of move here in the near term. And then it's going to either travel up here or all the way down here at 25,177. So what do I want to do? What do I want to do? Let's go to the 30-minute chart and see what we've got going on. Now, for those of us that have traded with me for a long time, you know that the first 30-minute candlestick is often one of the most important candlesticks of the day. It has a tendency to build a rhythm around that level for the entire day. Let's do, let me show you what I mean by that. Let's use the Gann box. So here is Thursday's opening formation. Excuse me, Friday's opening formation. That is no, that's 4:30, friend. And 6:30. Oh no, here we go. Yeah, that's right. Tight. Interesting. So this is a very tight 30-minute range. Two things to think about. When your opening chart is very tight, when your 30-minute opening candlestick is very tight, there is an extremely high probability that you will break the top and the bottom of it. If your VWAP is flat coming into the day, like this, there's almost 100% probability that if you break out of the top, you're going to break out of the bottom. Or if you break out of the bottom, you're going to move back up to the top. So what does this tell you? It tells you that there's a good trade waiting if that compression is very tight. But you have to wait on it. So what would you do on this 30-minute? You would wait. It breaks out. The second it comes back in, you could take a short. It goes to the bottom. You can shut your trade off because that's what it's telling you. If it goes to the top, it's likely to come back to the bottom, especially if it's tight. And it does that literally most all night. And then at about 7 a.m., it breaks down and it loses the low of the overnight. So your thought should be, okay, it's lost the overnight. Let me see where the VWAP is. Okay, the VWAP's above me. That means bounces or sells. So where's my ideal sell? It's going to be at the top of this range. Old support, new resistance. You put your order in right there. Your stop is the midpoint or the base of that 30-minute candlestick, and you're in business. What are we doing here? Nice long action event moving up from a 30-minute perspective. All of that looks really, really good. It's holding the edge. Look at the measured move now. Where did I measure that from? Let's go to the 100 tick, because that's where I measured it from. It's getting into that 200, the 2 of the Fibonacci. But a lot of people think to themselves, oh, I'm going to short this. I've got a double top. Well, pump the brakes. Let's understand this. If I'm making higher lows and higher highs, my pullbacks are going to be buy zones. And what I'm very likely to do, if this breaks out here, is run a bunch of stops that come back into a higher low and give me a shot to the upside. Where do I think the ideal buy zone here is? Well, they're collecting all kinds of inventory around here, so maybe it's a higher level on the short term, and it looks like 25,235. Where might I want to take this? Let's see. What do I want to do? VWAP is kind of... All right. I will put an order here at 25,226. Let's see if it comes in. All right. How do I manage stop losses? I determine in the very beginning where my loss is. So here's the YM. Let's work a trade out here and show you what a stop loss looks like. Hey, I love the questions. I absolutely love them. Take a look at this. The Dow hit 50,000. 50,000, right? Now let's take a look at this. Why do we suppose the Dow hit that high level? Look at what the traders have been doing since this zone. Breakout here. Here's the 50% marker. What are they doing here? Collecting inventory, right? They're building inventory. So what happens if people have been shorting? So that's 5 days of shorts, 6 days of shorts, 7 days of shorts, 8 days of shorts, 9, 10 days. Hey, as soon as it comes up to this 49,805, it's a short. Look what happens. Your thought should be, if you're staring this formation out, you know that it's very likely that if price action pops up over that zone of 49,900, you're going to have yourself a breakaway buy. Take a look at the 100 tick for that afternoon. Look at the breakaway sitting in this formation. What happened? Oh, I'll do this. Sorry, forgive me. So what happens here? Oversold. Notice, look to the left. Where's everybody absolutely buying? Once they recover 48,700, they're like, I'm buying it. And so they do it. On Friday, here's the level. Everybody's been saying, hey, if it gets there, we'll just short it. 49,750 or so. Look what happens. You know there's going to be a fight zone there, particularly if you're staring down small ticks. It breaks out, comes back and retests. Breaks out again, comes back and retests. Break out again, makes a higher high, comes back and retest. Where's your VWAP? Way below you. Now this is a place where you can say, I gotta have something telling me about relative trend and how everybody's doing. So I'm going to go back to the last dip in the formation, and I'm going to draw an anchored VWAP. Maybe it's here. I see that it pulls in, holds the level, and then bounces. Great way to tell you where the power of the market is sitting. Absolutely great. Now, what's happening here? Well, they bought a bunch and sold off. So we know that they've got a support zone here. Right there in that ledge, right down here. It breaks away. What do you know about this? If you've got this ledge, people are going to try to short there. 50,250. Let's zoom in and see what kind of fight they had. Here's the ledge. And literally, it just breaks out, makes a shallow pullback, and they're off to the races. So, looks pretty solid, but what's happening here now? If your brain only says, hey, let me see if I can figure out where everybody's buying. Let me see if I can find that box. If that's the only thing you do, you're going to get yourself in a great positioning formation. You can see right here, everybody's trying to buy the close of that 100 tick. So guess what? Trend is up. So if it breaks there, they're going to try and bounce. If they try and bounce and cannot get up over the congestion zone, it's going to be a fade down. If they can and they break away, this is another place where you can go, hey, I'm going to buy that stop above 50,343. Now, my gut says that price action is not going to hold tremendously well today. Just a gut feeling. I think we're going to have a lot of sideways pressure. That's just me. If the candles keep hitting your stop loss, then your stop is too tight and you're probably trading too big of a size. So size down and widen the stop. That's a fair thing to do, Lido. I would suggest that instead of widening the stop, consider a thought about actress and performer. Should I get him to start dancing? So, you could use micros. I used micros for a time, but I learned some really bad habits. I would say work on your strategy to strengthen your entries. That would be my thought. Do I have a YouTube channel? Thank you, Bruno. That is the YouTube channel. We just need them to come back and buy software stops to lift the NQ. Okay, so let's take a look at oil. Oh no, let's look at Bitcoin. Also a big deal. Now, for many of you know that in my personal accounts, I have been shorting Bitcoin since it lost round and about 98. I took tiny trades when it lost 120, but I was not certain that price action would rotate over until it lost about 98. So my target was 68. I took half of my position off at 72, and now I'm flat. So the question might be, why are you flat? I mean, what do you think's going on with this? So here's my thought. My thought is the following. Listen, Bitcoin is a fantastic instrument to trade. It's absolutely fantastic. Look at the rhythm of price action here. Here's the box. Remember, the first thought is, where are they buying and agreeing on price? And that's what we see right here. We see sideways action. Hey, I want to buy there, but I don't want to buy if it gets lower. I'm just going to sit tight. I'm going to wait until it comes in here, and then I'm going to buy again. So the VWAP's kind of flat. Momentum, you could say, you can look at it and go, hey, that's also kind of flat. Remember, when your VWAP is flat, your moving averages are flat. If it breaks out of the top of the inventory box, it very likely will come back to the bottom of the inventory box. When trend takes over, then you've got some motion. So notice, they fought like the dickens to try and hold 85,000, and they could not. And it just fell day after day after day. Huge capitulative selling down at 60,000, thereabouts. And then Friday, a really hard bounce. So what do these traders have to do? They got to get up over this line. So anywhere underneath 73,500 statistically should be a selling pressure event. What are they trying to do here? Well, they're trying to hold Friday's close. If they lose Friday's close, which is 70,500 or so, the retrace is very likely to be 50% of yesterday's price action. Friday's price action. My supposition is that Bitcoin is going to slosh around here. Why are we likely to sell off up here? Let's say you came in on Friday morning and you went, oh my gosh, this is my short. It's going to 54,000. And you took it on Thursday and you held, and then Friday came around, it broke down early, and you're like, oh, here we go. And in that overnight, it gave us a V-shaped bottom. And it rose all the way up here. What are you going to do if you are a trader who was short and you thought Friday would give you back returns, and instead it shreds almost all of your position out? Well, what you're going to do is go, if it breaks this 73,000, I'm out. I'm out. I am not going to watch something turn into a gigantic loser. And so that's really what we're staring down here. Above this 73,000, we're going to stair step very likely back into 77, maybe 78. So now let's look at how the market began the day. Look at where they're battling. What's this? Opening range of our 6 o'clock candlestick formation. That's so weird. I know what. Let's use the 15-minute chart. These ticks are strange. Okay, so here is our 15-minute reading. What does this candle tell us?
Order filled.
Ooh, here we go. Let's go back to NQ and see if that holds. Now you could see they're trying to hold this region. Old resistance, new support. They're trying to hold the ledge. Probably going to try and bounce off of the VWAP. But again, the thought process is the following. It should bounce off of this old prior event. Old resistance, new support, just made a higher high, price action bounce. I'm sorry, Lido. Somebody says that all the time, every time, because it's such a loud thing. I try to turn it off a lot because it doesn't, I don't particularly like the sound because it does give me a little bit of trouble. All right, if I'm going to trade gold, I really want to see, take a look at this. What are they battling? They want to hold that 15-minute low. Gonna try and test it. But here's what, I took the trade easily because it's old resistance, new support, right? So let's
Order
just
filled.
take that and move on. Let's go to oil, let's go to gold. Gold ripping. Let's go to a daily. Here's what I want to get across to you. I want you to frame out your trades and be so confident that you just move along and you don't stare it down. You don't go candle by candle. You say to yourself, listen, if this doesn't work, I'll have this as a loss. And be comfortable with that loss. Being comfortable with losses will give you control of the anxiety that you feel because you're always thinking about a loss. No need to do that. Truly, no need to do that. Here is a line in the sand that I drew just before I got on with this. It's the dollar amount at 50.30. My thought was, hey, listen, here's the VWAP. They closed at the open of Thursday, and so that gives them a complete recovery. So above that zone, and it probably was above this area at 50.20, gives us this long. We have higher lows in this formation. We're still got lower highs. So now the question is, well, where should I draw Fibonacci? The candlestick you're trying to work through is right here. So your 50% spot is right here at this 5,090. So the question is, are you going to do that in a straight line, or are you going to come back and test your inventory bounds? So let's take a peek. Let's go to a 100 tick. Do we think it comes back and then moves forward? Look at how you can use this. All right, you don't want to anchor your VWAP so close that, especially if you've got something tight, you want to give it a little bit of room. So if you anchor it on that low edge, and then you can anchor it to the breakout zone, and notice, why do I call that a breakout zone? Resistance, resistance, resistance that becomes support. And so that's where that VWAP ends up going. Moving average up, momentum up, everything well, momentum is sort of flat, but this is a bullish formation. So what do you expect? You expect the rise to the top, but remember what I say about gold and the metals in general. How do they normally break out? They test a high and then come back, and then hold a higher low and move forward. And this is what they did. They tested a high, pulled back, here's the front line of support, and now they're moving forward. So where's the inventory? On a very tight cycle event, the inventory is right here. It's $10 wide, so 51 to 61 to 71. Maybe, I think is what they would do. Let's clone this again. So looks like it's headed to 70. So if I were to take a trade here, I would try a reflexive short.
Order rejected.
Oh, won't let me do it. All right, no problem. You could, as it pops through the area, take the short and then pull back into support. Why did I clone twice? Because it's a measured move upward, and you can do it 4, 5, 6 times. How do you anchor your VWAP? This is the anchored VWAP symbol. You can find it on the section that has long position, short position forecast. Right down here, volume-based, anchored VWAP. You just simply click on the box and go to the candle that you want and put it there. And there you have it. It keeps you a running tally of what your support is. Congratulations, Shrey. Shrey just passed a combine with the NQ. Scotty, I would say log out and then log back in. Okay, so is a reversion trade possible across the board? Yeah, my question would be, where do you want to revert to? look at how strong this is versus what happened to the NQ. Let's look at the difference here. The NQ held this level way up here. That's the one we took. I think it comes all the way back down here in my mind. 25,225 is still a good edge for the ES. This is sideways again. Always look around and say to yourself, okay, where are they collecting inventory? I'm looking at this super tight time frame. Where are they going bottom to top to bottom to top to bottom to top? It's right here. Here's my top. Got a little bit of a squishy bottom right there. What do I know? Where's my VWAP? It's above me. What's my moving average? Also flat. So a bounce out, they're going to run stops and then reflexively come back in to the support ledge. That's my thought there. Let's see what MBT had a long night and now doing the super. Okay, that's funny. Let's go back to MBT. Look at that. Absolutely, folks. Keeping it real here. Notice. Take a look at what happens down here. What just happened in the most recent past? They bought it, right? How did the chart look when the traders confirmed that they were going to use upside pressure? It held the formation. So again, let's draw the box. Here's inventory accumulating on the 100 tick. I can clone it and it'll give me close to the top of the box. So there's the second one. When it breaks out here, it's pretty savage. What could you do? If you stare it down from the past, what do you see that's usable? One, you're making a floor. Two, you broke out of the formation and then came back and tested the door to make sure it was locked. So you know that's your support ledge now. So you can go long here knowing that your stop is just under this 70,300. As long as you're above that moving average, you've got yourself a shot at upside pressure. Now the question is, are we looking at the same thing here? And the answer is no. Why? This big moving average is now resistance. The slope of the small moving average is down. The VWAP is very far above us. So if we anchor a VWAP here, it's really at the zone that says, you know, this is probably going to rotate. And if it doesn't, it's going to dance between these boxes. So the question is, how do you want to trade it? If you are of the mind, hey, I think it's going to box. I think it's going to bounce. I think it's going to behave right in that inventory box, just like this one below it, right in that inventory box, and it's going to break out. Fabulous. How do you want to set that trade up? First things first, you need a breakout, a look above that comes back to test a higher low and then moves to the north. That's what that's going to give you. So you can do that, press forward, pull back, move to the north. That way you know this edge down here now at about 70,500, 70,460, that's going to be your real support zone. Would I take this breakout? No. Why? Because I have a downward moving average. I have a downward sloping anchored VWAP. I'm underneath my big moving average, and I know this is heavy congestion. So if it's a long, it's easily got a grade of a C, as opposed to the others that I had, which I think were A because I was moving with trend and momentum. Doesn't mean it won't work. Look at this. It's doing the same thing, but now it's caught between these moving averages, so you've got yourself sideways motion. That being said, if it pulls back into 70,370, it's a really nice buy zone. Anne-Marie, how long into trading did it take you to become profitable? Over 3 years. Consistently. I started becoming profitable about 19 months into the space, but I gave it all back. I gave it, and then some. Then I had to pull back, stop trading, figure out that I didn't know what I was doing, and then start all over again. But I was using real money. And so if there's a person that can talk to you about real emotional capital damage, I know what that feels like. And it's really, really bad. It's really bad. So, yeah, hey chat, I don't want to randomly test, but can place SIL unless you have 10K banked. Yeah. It's a very messy chart, folks. Listen, it's alluring because there's so much opportunity, but at the same time, opportunity goes both ways. Education cost, not being a dummy, is owning up to your mistakes and combing through it to ensure things don't repeat in the same fashion. That's golden. EMS, that is pure gold. I did have a pretty big ego when I first came into the market. I always thought I was the smartest person in the room. And the market made me see exactly who was in control, and it was not me. And so, yeah, I would say trading was very tough for me because I was looking for black and white answers, and the market is a shade of gray. Anne-Marie, super with you on this analysis. Thank you. Solid look at NQ, GCWT, and probably other charts I forgot. Thank you, Trading Nichols. I appreciate it. Well, I figured this. The one thing that's very important is that you're honest with yourself and the people that you trade around, because people can see garbage. They can, and I certainly don't hide myself from you simply because I just want you to see that anybody can do this work. It just has some very basic requirements. Can I look at MGC? I'm short. All right. Okay. Now this is what we were talking about, this sideways pressure event. I would imagine that this is a long. So let me tell you why I think it's a long and where I think it's a long from. Could you be in a short and still be right? Absolutely. This is the inventory that began accumulating at 3 minutes after the market opened. right? Or no, 30 minutes after the market opened. So there's an inventory box that runs from about 49 to 68. Moving average flat. Trend, it's indefinite mean reversion. So if you're short, you're doing great into the space. The question is, where is your target and what does trend tell you at this particular time? So trend is telling me that my dips are buys. Why? Higher lows. Trend is up. My VWAP is way down here. I have an anchored VWAP also that is sitting way down here. Oops. That's not what I wanted to do. Crud sickles. All right. All right, I have 14 and 150. So that's what I'm staring down. If I anchor a VWAP at my last wave, I can see it's all holding as support. So if you say, hey, I'm short, the question is, nothing wrong with that. Where's your target? And where do you pull the escape hatch? And are you trading with trend or against it? So you're trading in a range, so, if you take the short at the very top, it's pretty sideways. But we're making higher lows. And what does it mean to make a higher low? It means the traders, the buyers, are competing for price. So they're going to say, I know, I see you've got a bid at 50, 50, I'm going to put my bid in at 50.9. I was thinking the VWAP for target at 50.31. Where's your VWAP? Let me put this on a 5 minute, see what we see. That's pretty far away because the inventory appears to be accumulating right in this range right here. So it's pretty far away. I stopped placing trades every day, now down to 2 to 3 days per week max. Oh my gosh, you are not kidding. Thank you so much, CEGE. I appreciate that. I would love for you to be able to look in the mirror yourself and go, I admire who I'm looking at. I think a lot of us spend way too much time tearing ourselves down. And, Charles Schwab has an absolutely fantastic quote. And the bottom line of the quote is, hey, inspire people and they'll work better. And many of us are kind to others, but terrible to ourselves. I used to be that person. Very terrible to myself. And that I had to break that, because if I wasn't going to be mentally sharp and fierce, because you have to be a little fierce in the market, if I wasn't mentally sharp and fierce, then I was not going to be able to do it. So if per happenstance, exactly, nobody's flawless, right? If per happenstance you have a daughter or a woman in your life that might enjoy something encouraging, might I recommend The Queen of Chess on Netflix. But the one thing to see is that what she went through to become that champion for so many years, not trivial. And it is not trivial becoming a champion in this field. Consistency is going to be that measure. All right, everybody. I love the time with us one of these days. Do you have auto volume profile or anchored? I have visible profile. Here's the one I use. Volume profile, visible range. Yeah, volume profile, visible range. That's the one I have. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you. You wish it was a true documentary? Wait, it's not true? The Queen of Chess is not true? Doesn't it, though, Born to Range? I admire you being a chess master. I do admire that. My husband's an unbelievably good chess player. I can't beat him for crap. But it really is. You know what? How do I see the 30-year bond? Is that what you're saying, Growth? I suspect short-term yields are going to do better than long-term yields. Why? Because I see yields going up, and if you buy a 30-year at the current yield, you're going to be underwater when they start raising interest rates again. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you later. And have a good evening. Watch your risk. And make it simple. Pull it down and go, how would I teach a 5-year-old this? What would I do? And then learn it like that yourself. You're always going to have nuance. You're always going to have relative trend, sometimes explosive motion, sometimes liquidity grab, sometimes liquidity crash, all of those things. But in the end, the inventory boxes are going to tell you what everybody's been doing. All right, everybody, thank you so much for spending time with me. Bruno, thank you very much for moderating and putting up those links. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care.